Lieutenant Jason Matthews was far from home, exploring a planet on the outer edge of the galaxy. The planet was strange, its landscapes full of lush forests, towering trees, and thick fog that hid the ground. It had been weeks since his ship had landed, and Jason was eager to finish his mission. He had come to study the planet's resources and gather any useful information. He didn't expect to find anything truly exciting. That was, until the day he wandered off his usual path into a part of the forest he had never seen before. The air was thick with the scent of flowers, and the sound of the wind rustling through the trees was peaceful. But as he walked deeper, something caught his attention, a rustling sound from the bushes ahead. Jason paused, gripping his rifle tightly, wondering if it was an animal or something else. He moved closer, his boots making soft, crunching noises. Against the fallen leaves, his heart raced with curiosity. Was it something dangerous? Suddenly, out of the shadows, a figure appeared. It was unlike anything Jason had ever seen. She was a girl, but not fully human. Her skin shimmered a soft blue, almost glowing in the dim light of the forest. Her eyes were large, black, and filled with curiosity. Her features were delicate and smooth, but there was something wild in the way she moved, like she belonged to this planet, yet was completely different from him. Jason froze. He had read reports of alien life, but he had never come across one like this. His mission was to observe and report, not to engage with alien species. But there she was, standing in front of him, her body language calm but watchful. She didn't speak, but the look in her eyes told him she wasn't afraid. She stepped closer, and Jason instinctively took a step back. But then, she did something he wasn't expecting. Without warning, the alien girl moved even closer, raising her hand to his face. Jason's heart skipped a beat. He had no idea what she was about to do. She was still too close. He raised his rifle, unsure whether to defend himself or stay still. And then she licked his face. The wet, cool touch of her tongue sent a shock of confusion through him. Jason stood still, unsure of how to react. The alien girl pulled back, studying his expression carefully. It felt like everything had stopped for a moment, the strange touch lingering on his skin. Jason blinked, unsure. If he had just imagined it, had she just licked him? What did it mean? His mind raced for an explanation. Was this an attack? A strange form of communication? Or had he misunderstood? Jason didn't know what to think. The girl had done it so quickly, and now she was just standing there watching him. What was that? Jason finally asked, his voice shaky. His translator device crackled to life, but it didn't seem to help much. There was no language, no words he could understand. The girl just tilted her head, a soft, knowing look in her eyes, but she didn't answer. For a long moment, Jason stared at her. She didn't seem dangerous. In fact, she seemed almost friendly, but her strange actions didn't make sense. Why had she done that? Was it some kind of greeting? Was it normal in her culture? The girl didn't seem to be bothered by his confusion. She took a small step back, as if giving him space to process what had happened. Jason let out a nervous breath, trying to gather his thoughts. This was unexpected. Everything in his training had told him to avoid interactions like this, but now that he was in the middle of it, he had no idea what to do. "Hello," Jason called out, his voice more calm this time, but the girl just stared at him. She didn't speak. Instead, she reached down and picked up a small flower from the ground, holding it out to him in a silent offering. Jason hesitated. The flower was beautiful, unlike anything he had ever seen before. It had delicate, glowing petals that shimmered in the low light. Slowly, Jason took the flower from her, wondering what kind of message this was supposed to send. As his fingers brushed against her skin, he felt a strange warmth that went deeper than just the physical contact. The girl gave him a small nod, as if satisfied with the exchange. She took a few steps back and then turned, motioning for him to follow her. Jason, still unsure of what was going on, decided to stay close. He had come here to study, and this was definitely an unexpected part of the mission. But there was something about the alien girl that intrigued him. She didn't seem like an enemy, just different. He followed her through the forest, watching the way she moved with ease, her body almost blending into the environment. She led him to a small clearing where other alien beings seemed to be. Gathered, there were more of her kind, each with the same blue skin and large dark eyes. They were all busy with some kind of task, but when they noticed Jason, they stopped and stared at him. The girl from earlier whispered something to one of them in their language, and they all seemed to nod in understanding. Jason felt out of place, but there was something oddly welcoming about it. It was clear that the alien girl had some kind of authority here. She had led him to her people, but Jason couldn't help but wonder, why? What did they want from him? The girl turned back to him, her eyes soft, and she smiled. Though it was a smile that held a mystery Jason couldn't understand. For now, he could only watch as the alien girl continued to lead him deeper into their world. What would he discover next? What did the face lick truly mean? The next few days were unlike anything Lieutenant Jason Matthews had ever experienced. The alien girl, who had led him into the clearing, continued to stay by his side. She didn't speak to him, but her actions spoke louder than words. She seemed determined to help him understand her world. Jason wasn't sure if he was supposed to be learning from her or if she was simply curious about him. Either way, he had no choice but to follow along. Trying to make sense of this strange new environment, the alien girl's name, he learned through his translator device, was Ilya. It was a simple name, yet it carried a sense of elegance and mystery. Ilya seemed to be some kind of guide to Jason, taking him through the different areas of the alien settlement. The other inhabitants watched him closely, their dark eyes filled with curiosity, but no one said a word to him. There was no hostility, only a quiet observation. Jason felt like an outsider, but he also felt like he had a strange connection to these beings. They weren't what he had expected. Ilya led him to a large, open space in the center of the settlement, where the alien people gathered. The area was full of strange plants and trees that glowed faintly, casting an eerie but beautiful light. The alien people seemed to be busy with their daily tasks, gathering food, tending to plants, or crafting objects. Jason watched them, trying to understand what they were doing. It was nothing like the bustling cities of Earth. It felt peaceful, quiet, and disconnected from the noise of human civilization. As Jason took in his surroundings, Ilya reached over to touch his arm. It was a small gesture, but it was enough. To catch his attention, he looked down at her and she tilted her head as if asking him to follow. He didn't know where she was leading him. Something in the way she looked at him made him trust her. They walked through the settlement until they came to a large building made of natural materials, wood and stone, yet so perfectly arranged that it seemed to be a part of the land itself. Ilya gestured for him to enter, and Jason hesitated for only a moment before stepping inside. The building was warm and smelled of earth and greenery. Inside, there were more alien people, sitting in groups, talking in low voices, and working together on various projects. Ilya motioned for Jason to sit with her at a table. The alien people didn't seem to mind his presence, but they didn't approach him either. They were focused on their tasks as if he were just another part of their world, not an outsider. Ilya reached across the table and offered him another strange, glowing flower, the same one she had given him earlier. Jason took the flower, examining it closely. It was beautiful, and the soft glow it gave off made it seem almost alive. As he held it, Ilya smiled and pointed to his face, then touched her own cheek with the tips of her fingers. It was a simple gesture, but it seemed to hold a deeper meaning. Jason's mind raced, trying to figure out what she was trying to tell him. He couldn't ignore the connection he felt with her, but this gesture left him more confused than ever. Before he could respond, one of the other alien people approached them. She was an older woman, her skin a deeper shade of blue, and her eyes even larger than Ilya's. She smiled warmly at Jason, and though Jason couldn't understand her language, he could tell from the tone of her voice that she meant no harm. The woman placed her hand over Jason's and then pointed to Ilya, who nodded at her. Jason was about to ask what was happening when Ilya's translator device suddenly activated. The voice was soft but clear. "You are safe here, human. Our people welcome you." Jason looked at Ilya, who watched him intently. He didn't know what to say. He had never been in a situation like this before. The idea that an entire alien culture could accept him so quickly was overwhelming. What did they want from him? Why were they being so kind? The older woman spoke again, this time pointing to the flower in Jason's hand and then tapping her own cheek. The meaning was clear. It was a gesture of peace, a symbol of trust. Jason understood now that the flower, like the face lick, was an offering, a sign of goodwill. Ilya smiled at him, her eyes gentle. It is our way. The translation echoed through his mind as if she had spoken directly to him. Jason nodded slowly, starting to understand. The people here didn't communicate like humans. They didn't rely on words the way Earth's people. Did their gestures, their actions, were their way of saying more than words ever could? The face lick had been a sign of respect, and the flower was a gift. Both had deeper meanings that Jason was just beginning to understand. But as he sat there with Ilya and the older woman, something started to bother him. There was still so much he didn't know. He hadn't even scratched the surface of this. Alien culture. What was the significance of their quiet ways? What did they want from him, if anything? Most importantly, what did Ilya's gestures mean? Why had she chosen him to show this respect? That night, as Jason lay on a bed of woven leaves in a small hut, he couldn't shake the feeling that something larger was at play here. It wasn't just about learning from the aliens, it was about something deeper. There was a connection between them, one that went beyond simple curiosity. He couldn't explain it, but he felt it in his bones. Ilya had chosen him for something. He wasn't sure what it was, but he was starting to realize that he might be the key to understanding this world. And whatever it was, Jason knew he had to find out. The days continued to pass slowly on the alien planet. Jason had begun to adjust to life in the settlement, though he still felt like an outsider. He spent his time learning about the alien culture, studying their ways and customs, but there was always something in the back of his mind, a question that lingered. What did the alien girl, Ilya, really want from him? Why had she chosen him for her strange yet meaningful gestures? Every day, Ilya was by his side. She would guide him to different parts of the settlement, showing him the unique ways her people lived. The alien culture was fascinating. They lived in harmony with nature, using their advanced technology to grow plants that could heal and provide sustenance. Their buildings were designed to blend with the environment, built from the very materials found on the planet. It was a peaceful, quiet existence, one that felt far removed from the constant noise and conflict of Earth. Jason couldn't help but admire the way Ilya and her people lived. They had a deep respect for the planet and each other. There was no rush, no pressure. Everything was done with patience and care. Jason began to find peace in the routine, but there was still something unsettling about the way Ilya watched him. She was always near, always observing him with those large, dark eyes. It wasn't just curiosity anymore. There was something deeper in her gaze, something that made Jason's heart race whenever their eyes met. It was on the fourth day that the tension became too much for Jason to ignore. After spending the morning learning how the alien people harvested plants for their food and medicine, Ilya led him to a quiet spot near a river that ran through the settlement. The sound of the water rushing over the rocks was calming, but the atmosphere between them was anything but. Ilya sat down on a large rock by the riverbank, her eyes locked on him. She had always been calm and collected, but today there was an intensity in her expression that Jason couldn't explain. She patted the spot beside her, inviting him to sit. Jason hesitated for a moment before walking over and sitting down, his heart pounding in his chest. He was used to being alone in his thoughts, but now, with Ilya sitting so close, everything felt different. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The silence between them stretched out, heavy and thick. Jason's mind raced, trying to make sense of the situation. Ilya's actions, the face lick, the flower, the way she always seemed to be near him, had to mean something. But what? Was it a sign of friendship, or was there something more to it? He couldn't ignore the growing sense of unease that had settled in his stomach. Finally, Ilya spoke, her voice soft but clear through the translator device. "You are safe here, human. but you must understand our ways." Jason turned to her, his brow furrowing. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice unsure. "What do you want from me?" Leah looked at him with a gaze that seemed to go deep into his soul. She reached out and placed her hand gently on his arm. Jason felt the warmth of her touch, and for a moment it was like the world around him disappeared. There was something powerful in that simple gesture, something that made him feel like he was standing on the edge of understanding everything you do not understand yet. "But you will in time," Elia said, her voice almost a whisper. Jason felt a chill run down his spine. He was beginning to realize that Ilya wasn't just offering him friendship. She was offering him something deeper, something more profound. But what was it? What was this bond she was trying to form with him? He wasn't sure he was ready to understand, as if sensing his confusion. Ilya stood up and walked a few steps toward the river, her movements graceful and fluid. She turned back to look at him, her expression still serious. "So we are connected." "You and I," Jason stood up, his mind spinning. "Connected? How?" Leah's eyes softened, and she motioned for him to come closer. Jason walked slowly toward her, his mind racing with questions. What was she trying to tell him? What did she mean by connected? "In our culture," Ilya began, "we form bonds with those we trust, those we choose to protect. It is not just friendship. It is deeper." She paused for a moment, her gaze never leaving his. "When I licked your face, it was my way of showing that I trust you. I chose you, Jason Matthews. You are important to me." Jason's heart skipped a beat. The weight of her words hit him harder than he expected. He had thought that the face lick had been a simple greeting, an odd but friendly gesture. But now he understood that it meant far more than that, was a promise, a bond. Ilya wasn't just curious about him, she was offering him something deeper, something that could change the course of his entire mission. The realization made Jason feel a sense of responsibility he hadn't anticipated. He wasn't just a visitor. On this planet, he was part of something. Akelia had chosen him, and now he had to figure out what that meant for both of them. "I don't know if I'm ready for this," Kaysen admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm just here to gather information, to study your people. I never expected this." Elia stepped closer to him, her eyes filled with understanding. "You will learn. It will not be easy. But we will help you. We'll protect you as you will protect us." Jason took a deep breath, trying to absorb everything she had said. There was no turning back now. He had been chosen, and somehow he knew this connection with Ilya and her people was going to change everything. He wasn't sure where it would lead, but he couldn't deny the pull he felt toward her. There was something special about her, something that made him want to understand her world completely. For now, Jason had no choice but to follow Ilya's lead. The path ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: their connection was only just beginning. The days that followed were filled with a new sense of urgency. Jason had learned more about Ilya's people, their way of life, and the strange connection he now had with them. The more he understood, the more he realized how much he had underestimated. This alien culture wasn't just about studying plants or gathering data anymore. It was about building trust, understanding, and perhaps forming an unspoken bond with them. Ilya remained by his side, guiding him through every step of this strange new life. She showed him how her people worked together, shared food, and lived in harmony with the land. There was a quiet beauty to it all. It was unlike anything Jason had experienced before, peaceful, it's balanced, and far removed from the chaos of Earth. But despite the calm, something was tugging at Jason's mind. The face lick. He couldn't stop thinking about it. It wasn't just a random act. Ilya had said it was a gesture of trust, a sign that she had chosen him. But what did that really mean? Why him? What kind of bond was she talking about? Jason had asked Ilya about it, but she had been vague. She had told him that in her culture, the lick was a sign of a deeper connection, one that was meant to protect and bind. But the more he thought about it, the more confused he became. Was it a bond of friendship or something more? The next day, Jason found himself walking beside Ilya again, this time heading toward a large structure that he had seen from afar. was a building unlike any he had seen before, made from materials that seemed to grow naturally from the ground. It was as if the building had been grown, not built. Vines wrapped around the walls, and the windows were made from transparent leaves. It was beautiful and strange, and it seemed to pulse with an energy of its own. Ilya led Jason inside, and they entered a large chamber filled with alien technology. There were devices Jason didn't recognize, and the air was filled with the scent of unfamiliar herbs and flowers. The walls were lined with intricate carvings, each one telling a story that Jason couldn't understand. There was a soft hum in the air, and Jason felt a strange pull as they moved deeper into the room. At the center of the chamber stood a large stone table, covered with glowing symbols. Ilya motioned for Jason to sit at one end, and he did, his heart beating faster. With each passing moment, something told him that he was about to learn something important, something that would answer the questions he had been carrying with him for days. Ilya stood across from him, her eyes watching him closely. She raised her hand in the air around. Them seemed to shift. Soft glow filled the room, and Jason's vision blurred for a moment. When it cleared, he saw something extraordinary on the table. The glowing symbols had shifted, forming a pattern that Jason recognized. It was a map, but it wasn't just any map. It was a map of the stars, of the galaxy itself, and at the center was Earth. Jason's eyes widened in shock. "What was this?" Leah spoke, her voice calm and steady. "This is the bond we share. It is. Not just between you and me, Jason. It is between your people and mine." She paused, letting the words sink in. The lick was not just an offering of trust. It was an invitation. A call to protect your world, just as we protect ours. Jason's mind raced. He didn't understand. "Protect my world? What do you mean?" Ilya's expression softened, and she stepped closer to him. "We have watched Earth for many years. We have seen the way your people live, your struggles, your wars, your victories. We have observed, but we have never interfered. But now things are changing. There are forces in the galaxy that threaten not just your world, but many others. The bond we share is more than just personal. It is the beginning of a greater alliance, one that will unite us against a common enemy." Jason's breath caught in his throat. This was more than he had ever expected. He had thought he was just a researcher, someone sent to gather information. But now he was part of something far bigger, something that could change the course of history. Ilya continued, "The lick you received, the trust I offered you, is a sign that we are willing to stand by your side. We are offering our protection, but in return, we need something from you." Jason looked up, his eyes meeting Ilya's. "What do you need?" "We need your people to understand. We need you to be the bridge between us. We are not like your world. We do not fight for power or resources. We fight to protect what is good and pure in the galaxy. But your people, your world, they must be ready to join us." Jason's head was spinning. He had never imagined something like this. He was just one man, one human. How could he help unite two worlds? But Ilya was right. The galaxy was changing. And maybe Earth was more connected to this than he had ever realized. Ilya placed her hand on the table, and the map shifted once again. Zooming in on Earth. "We are watching, Jason. The time will come when your people will need to choose. Will you stand with us, or will you face the consequences of your actions alone?" Jason didn't know what to say. He felt the weight of her words press down on him. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about something much bigger. His mind raced as he thought about his home, his family, and his people. They'd really be ready for what Ilya was offering? Ilya's eyes softened, and she gave him a small smile. "You do not have to decide yet, but the time will come, and when it does, you will know what to do. Trust yourself, Jason. Trust us." Jason nodded slowly, though he still wasn't sure what to think. The enormity of the situation was too much to fully comprehend. But one thing was clear: this was just the beginning. And somehow he knew that the bond he had with Ilya and her people would shape the future of both Earth and the galaxy. The days after Jason's conversation with Ilya were filled with confusion and uncertainty. The weight of her words sat heavily on him, and no matter how hard he tried to push them aside, they always returned to his mind. The bond between their worlds, the invitation to protect Earth, it all felt too big, too overwhelming. How could he, one person, be part of something that could change the future of the galaxy? Ilya was still by his side, guiding him through the daily life of her people. They continued to work together, helping the alien settlers tend to their crops and gather resources. The quiet, peaceful rhythm of the settlement felt like a world apart from the chaos of Earth. But Jason couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming. He wasn't sure what, but he could feel it like a storm waiting to break. One morning, as Jason worked alongside Ilya in the fields, something strange happened. A sudden, loud noise echoed through the air, unlike anything he had ever heard. It was a deep, rumbling sound that shook the ground beneath his feet. Jason's heart raced as he looked around, trying to locate the source of the noise. Ilya froze beside him, her eyes wide with concern. The other aliens in the field began to move quickly, rushing to gather their things and retreat toward the settlement. "What's happening?" Jason asked, his voice tight with fear. Ilya didn't answer immediately. Instead, she grabbed his arm and began to pull him toward the settlement, moving faster than he thought possible. Jason stumbled to keep up, the urgency in her movements pushing him forward. As they reached the edge of the settlement, Jason saw what had caused the noise. A massive creature, larger than any animal Jason had ever seen, appeared on the horizon. It was covered in thick, dark fur and had glowing red eyes that seemed to pierce through the mist. Its massive claws dug into the earth with each step, sending tremors through the ground. The alien people in the settlement were already beginning to prepare for what was coming. Is that ... Is that a predator?" Jason asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Ilya nodded, her expression grim. "Yes, it is a hunter, and it has come to our land." Jason's heart pounded as he watched the creature approach. It was unlike any predator he had seen on Earth, and its size alone made it terrifying. He had no idea how to deal with it. The alien people around him were already gathering weapons, though Jason wasn't sure what kind of weapons they used. He felt a sense of helplessness in his chest. What could he do to help? Ilya turned to him, her eyes filled with determination. "Stay close to me, Jason. Do not move until I say." Jason didn't have time to respond. He followed Ilya as she led him to a hidden area behind a group of tall, thick trees. The other aliens quickly set up a defensive perimeter. Their movements practiced and calm, but there was a sense of urgency in the air. Jason's mind raced as he tried to understand what was happening. Was this just another part of their daily life? Did they deal with these predators often? Ilya placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch gentle but firm. "We will protect you." Her voice was steady, but Jason could hear the underlying tension. She wasn't just protecting him, she was protecting their world. The creature was getting closer, and Jason could hear its low growls vibrating through the ground. The aliens around him took their positions, silently preparing for the confrontation. Jason felt a chill run down his spine as he looked at the massive creature. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, and its red eyes were locked on the settlement. Ilya stood beside him, her stance ready and calm. The other aliens around them were preparing to defend their home, and Jason felt a strange sense of solidarity with them. He wasn't just a visitor anymore. He was part of this world, and somehow he knew that he had to do whatever it took to protect it. "Stay behind me, Jason." Leah's voice was soft but urgent. She stepped forward, joining the group of aliens who had already begun to form a line against the creature. Jason's heart was pounding in his chest as he watched her, his mind racing. He wasn't sure what he was supposed to do, but one thing was clear. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about standing together. The creature let out another roar, shaking the trees around them. It was close, now too close. The alien defenders moved into position, and Jason saw them raise their weapons. The weapons weren't guns or lasers. Instead, they were long, sharp blades, made from materials Jason couldn't identify. They glinted in the light, sharp and deadly. The leader of the group raised a hand, signaling the others to hold their ground. The creature came closer, its eyes glowing brighter as it locked onto its prey. Jason could feel the tension in the air, and he knew that the next few moments would decide everything. Ilya stepped forward, her body tense, ready to fight. Jason wanted to do anything, but he had no weapons, no way to help. He could only watch as the alien defenders prepared to face the creature. The ground shook as the predator roared once more, charging toward the line of aliens. And then it happened. Ilya moved with incredible speed, her blade flashing through the air, as she charged toward the creature. The other aliens followed her lead, their movements quick and precise. The battle was fierce and fast, but it didn't last long. Within moments, the creature was defeated, its massive body lying still on the ground. Jason stood in shock, his heart still racing. Ilya and the others had won, but the cost of the battle was clear. The creature had been a formidable opponent, and the fight had been a reminder of just how dangerous this world could be. And Jason felt a deep sense of gratitude toward Ilya and the aliens.
Oh, yeah.
They had risked their lives to protect him and to protect their home. Ilya returned to his side, her face serious but calm. We did what we had to do. But remember, Jason, this is just the beginning. The threats are real, and we will face them together. Jason nodded, his mind still spinning from the events he had just witnessed. He had learned something important today. He wasn't just a visitor anymore. He was part of something much larger, something that was bigger than himself. And he would stand with Ilya and her people, no matter what came next. The days following the battle with the massive predator were filled with a mix of relief and contemplation. As she said, couldn't shake the image of Ilya and her people standing firm in the face of danger. They had proven their strength, their loyalty to each other, and their commitment to protecting their world. It was something Jason had never experienced before. It left a lasting impression on him. Ilya had not spoken much since the fight, but her actions spoke volumes. She continued to guide him through their world, teaching him about their ways, their history, and their culture. Jason learned that this wasn't just a peaceful planet. There were dangers, real, tangible threats. The predators, the strange creatures, and the natural challenges of the land were just some of the things the alien people faced every day as the days passed. Jason's connection to Ilya and her people grew stronger, felt himself becoming more integrated into their world, no longer just an outsider. The bond he had with Ilya was something deeper now. It wasn't just about trust anymore. It was about shared experiences, shared struggles. They had fought together, and that had changed everything. One afternoon, as Jason and Ilya sat by the river, watching the peaceful flow of the water, Jason found himself lost in thought. Had never imagined his life would take such a turn. He had come to this planet with a simple mission: gather data, port back to Earth. But now, his role seemed so much more complicated. The face lick, the bond, the protection it, was all connected. And Jason was no longer just an observer. He was a part of something much bigger than himself. Ilya, Jason said, breaking the silence, I've been thinking about what you said. The bond, the protection. I don't fully understand it yet, but I'm starting to feel like I'm supposed to do something important. I'm not sure what, but I can't ignore this feeling. Ilya turned to him, her eyes soft and understanding. She nodded slowly, as if she had been expecting him to come to this realization. It is good that you are beginning to understand, Jason. The bond we share is not just between us. It is between our worlds. She paused for a moment, choosing her words carefully. You've been chosen just as I chose you. But it is not just about protecting me or my people. It is about protecting the galaxy. Jason's heart raced. He had heard Ilya say similar things before, but hearing it again made it feel more real, more urgent. The galaxy, repeated, his voice barely above a whisper. What do you mean? There are forces out there, Jason. Forces that threaten everything. They do not care about peace or balance. They seek to conquer, to destroy. Ilya's voice was steady, but there was a hint of worry in her eyes. You're not the only ones who have seen this. We have watched Earth, and we know what is coming. The galaxy is on the brink of something terrible. Jason felt a knot form in his stomach. He had always known that Earth wasn't alone in the universe, but to hear it like this was more than he had ever expected. The fate of more than just Earth was at stake. Now the weight of it all was almost too much to bear. Ilya seemed to sense his hesitation. She placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch warm and reassuring. "You are not alone in this, Jason. You will never be alone. We stand with you, and together we will face whatever comes." Jason took a deep breath, trying to process everything Ilya had said. The feeling of responsibility was overwhelming, but it was also empowering. He had always felt like just one person, unable to make a real difference in the grand scheme of things. But now, standing beside Ilya and her people, he felt like he had a purpose or role to play in something much bigger than himself. "I don't know what's coming," Jason said, his voice quiet but determined. "But I know one thing. I'm not going to sit back and watch. I'll fight with you, whatever it takes." Ilya smiled, a rare, soft smile that made Jason's heart swell with pride. "You have made the right choice, Jason. We will fight together, and we will protect what is good in the galaxy." In the days that followed, Jason continued to learn and grow alongside Ilya and her people. He trained with them, learning their ways of combat, their strategies for defending their land. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't always clear what was coming next, but Jason felt a sense of clarity he had never known before. He wasn't just an observer anymore. He was a part of this world, a part of this fight. One evening, as Jason sat alone by the fire, Ilya approached him. She sat beside him, her presence comforting as always. There was a quiet understanding between them, a shared bond that had grown over time. They didn't need words to communicate anymore. Both understood what the future held. "Ilya," Jason said after a long pause, "I've learned so much from you, from your people. I never thought I'd be here doing this. But I'm starting to realize that I'm not just here to help you. I'm here to help us all." Ilya's eyes softened as she turned to him. "That is what I have always known, Jason. You have been chosen for this role. Not by chance, but by purpose. Together, we will face the challenges ahead." Jason nodded. Feeling the weight of her words, the future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. He wasn't alone anymore. He had found his place in this strange new world, and he would fight to protect it, no matter the cost, as the stars twinkled above them. Jason felt a sense of peace wash over him. There was still much to be done, many challenges to face, but for the first time in a long time, he felt ready. The bond between him and Ilya, between Earth and the alien people, was something he could not ignore. It was the beginning of something bigger than all of them, a journey that would change the fate of the galaxy forever.